City to city, we making moves. Home at the goal and I got the groove. I hit up, did a trap on the move. They say I got a new attitude. I stay the drip and hop in the pool. I been on my level, ain't nothing new. Ice on my neck just to keep it cool. They saying I got a new attitude. City to city, we making moves. Home at the goal and I got the groove. I hit up, did a trap on the move. They say I got a new attitude. I stay the drip and hop in the pool. I been on my level, ain't nothing new. Ice on my neck just to keep me cool. They saying I got a new attitude. Yeah, city to city, we making moves. Home at the goal and I got the groove. I hit up, did a trap on the move. They say I got.
How y'all doing? This is Rick Sincere with MTMV Sports. So glad to be joined today on the line by Alaina Getzenberg of the Charlotte Observer. I just want to hop into one of her articles. Really struck me. So I read an article and where she talked about the unselfishness of Cam Newton and how much he meant to the city. She basically wrote down a bunch of numbers, right? And in those numbers, there was so much meaning to what happened throughout his career. I want to ask her questions about Cam Newton and his time in Carolina. I want to know about his future, and I want to know about the future of the Carolina Panthers. How you doing today, Alaina?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me on. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. These are strange times.
Yes. We can all agree on that.
Yeah, and I feel like we're kind of in the middle of a place where it's kind of like the great equalizer, right? Because this is the way we can interview, and if you were invited to ESPN, it'd be the same exact situation.
That is the truth. It makes us all in the same spot.
Yeah, so it feels good to at least at some point in some way at some level be on the same level as ESPN right now, right? All right, guys. So here's what I want to do. I want to ask you about your article, but before we hop in, I want to get a sense of what Cam Newton, how the city right now is reacting to the release of Cam Newton. How are they dealing with the fact that Cam's no longer their number one quarterback because he's been there since he's been drafted?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing where it was somewhat coming. Like, I think it was kind of like a slow build up to what ended up happening. I don't think anyone should have been surprised by it was like a couple weeks ago when he was officially released. There were so many signs, so many indications that things weren't going well. So I think people are upset about the way it went down. There's definitely a tone of disappointment in the Panthers and maybe the way they ended up handling the end. But I don't think the actual act of him being released was surprising. I think it's kind of once you actually see his name with no longer, his Twitter picture doesn't have him in a Panthers jersey anymore. That's dramatic. I think it's things like that where it's more of the emotional. It's not a surprise, but there is, since you're quarterback for 9 years, there's an emotional connection.
At the height of his time in Carolina, around 2015, when he's the MVP and everybody's dabbing across the nation, right? What did Cam Newton mean to the city of Carolina, or to the city of Charlotte in Carolina?
Yeah, I don't think you can undersell what he meant. I think he meant so much. I was just having a conversation the other day with someone who was like, who were his wide receivers on that team? They did not have, Jericho Cotchery was there, I don't know. But they just, that 2015 team, he made them great. I don't think, we'll talk more about the offense, but, he made that team great, and he did. You watch Cam Newton, but you watch some of those games back, he was, magic. It's hard not to, smile when you watch him. So I think he meant a lot. I think anyone watching that team, know he was the heart and soul of that team that, went on a Super Bowl run. So I think that's the season that when you say, that was his MVP season, and I think it was justifiable. And I think that's what kind of, built that emotional connection, was how good he was that year.
So, okay, I've seen in some articles in the Charlotte Observer that Cam Newton could rub fans the wrong way, right? And that had to be well after the 2015 season. That has to be closer to now than back then, right? So, what about Cam Newton could possibly rub fans the wrong way?
Yeah, I'll tell you. So, there's a lot of perspectives on Cam Newton. I think for someone who gets a lot of emails about Cam Newton, good and bad, I get a lot of different things. I think people, how do I say this? I think people make judgments about people based on things. And this isn't a Cam Newton only thing. This is a society thing. I think people make judgments based on, his attire post games. I think I think I get a lot of emails about them. People make comments about just because it's not what they're used to. I think you can point to that 2015. I mean, I don't like to do this, but I think it's easy to point to that 2015 post Super Bowl press conference where he, didn't act appropriately. It wasn't his best. He could have handled it better. Yeah. However, he should have handled it, could have been better. And I think that's when it all started to kind of like people made judgments about his character and the way he handled things. I think it all started there. And then, once you're looking for things, you can find something in anyone. So I think it kind of like grew and grew, and some people have mixed feelings about it.
Is it? So, okay, have you been in those rooms when he's walked into a press conference? Mm-hmm. How is that? Tell me how that is when he walks in.
I haven't been to too many, but I will say that, I was only there for the less positive time, so it's it's fine. it's what it is. I mean, he knows that, any quarterback knows, press is waiting for them and, all eyes are on you. So, I mean, he's used to that situation by now, but it always is interesting. I mean, even just watching over the years, his attire, whatever, he likes to put on a show, and I don't, blame him for that, but it is, all eyes on Cam.
It is. And look, in most outfits that he wears, I'm like, wow, man, I would have never done that. But I mean, hey, I'm not a fashion expert. Look at me, right? So, but I mean, I still don't know. I'm still always wanting to know if I ever got a chance to talk to Cam. I actually, no, I wouldn't even bring it up. But but I would want to at some point. All right, so I want to get into your article now. Your article was amazing. You talked about the numbers that basically meant a lot to Cam Newton and lots of his career and his time in Carolina. But one of the things that really caught my eye is that you spoke about his generosity. Right, and you talked about sometimes the public generosity, because there was a lot of immense public generosity, but also private generosity, like him bringing, him bringing food or bringing blankets to the homeless people after games, or him going around and showing different acts of kindness around the city, the stuff that he did for the youth there, the stuff that his foundation has done, how much money they've donated, whether people know about it or they don't know about it. From what you know about Cam Newton, what would drive him to such unselfish acts of kindness?
Yeah. So when I first came to Charlotte and covering this team, one of the first things someone told me that Cam's a lot, it comes with a lot of different stuff, but when he's doing his charity work and when he's or when he's just out, talking to fans and that sort of thing, that's when he's at that's pure Cam. That's when you're going to see a lot of character, a lot of how he actually interacts with people. And I think, so I was actually talking to his foundation director who, like you said, they didn't know that he was, going out after home games and, giving back to people who are homeless, different foundations. Just, after home games, he would go with some family and friends, not all the time, but a lot, and do that, just take his time, separate from the charity. I think a lot of that, so when he was younger, a lot of what he aspired to do is he wanted to give back to kids like himself, when he was younger. And I think that drives him a lot to want to do things for youth. I mean, you'll see him, he hosts his 7-on-7 tournaments for kids a lot who are in Atlanta, where he grew up and who had similar environments. So I think he sees himself and how he would want, a NFL player to give back to him when he was a kid. So I think he always thought of when he got to this level, he wanted to make sure he was doing that. And he spends a lot of time on, giving back to Atlanta and formerly Charlotte, I guess now. But yeah, so I think it's just something that he prioritizes maybe more than other athletes.
So, okay. Now, if he's doing all that, right, and he loves the city loves him, of course, that he can rub some people the wrong way, but he's going through that. He's also been very productive. He's been remarkable at times. He's been outright superhuman at times. What led to, the end of his time in Carolina?
I don't think you can point to one thing. I think there's, in most situations like this, it's a number of factors that add up. I mean, the injuries are going to be the biggest thing, that he just wasn't healthy the last 2 seasons. And it's hard when you see your team without your starting quarterback, and you see, that, he's been injured a lot, and that's a lot hard to rely on someone no matter what emotional connection you have, who has 3 surgeries in the last 3 years. That's a hard situation. And I think his contract, the fact that they could get out of it with only like $2 million against their cap, that's
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not losing. It's not a financial investment to get rid of him. It's not a big deal. And I think also they hired a new head coach. Ron Rivera's gone. I think they felt like they were starting over. To not entirely. What they're doing is a interesting conversation, but they're starting over to an extent with a new head coach. And I think when a new head coach comes in, it's not uncommon to see a new starting quarterback come with him. So I think it was a number of factors and just time. I think it was honestly probably for the best. I think that's hard for Panthers fans to see right now, but hopefully Cam can find a situation that's good for him, and it was, I don't know, it felt like it was time.
So, okay, and for some, right, for some people who are watching or paying attention, and I've kind of paid attention too. I've watched over the course of the last few years, and I'm like, this is coming to an end. I can feel it, right? Because, he gets hurt. He's not able to finish one season. Then he comes in early to start the season, but then doesn't finish that season. And it looks like you can't ever count on him being healthy for an entire season now, right? But I'm not going to lie to you. Looking at this new Cam Newton, are you paying attention on Instagram? Are you seeing what he's doing now?
I'm seeing. I got to keep watching.
I'm thinking this Cam is going to be different. At some point, he's doing his workout, an intense workout, right? And he's showing people, he's playing the music in the background, Christian gospel music. I love that. So while he's doing that, right, he then looks at the camera and says, they gave up on me.
Yeah.
He says, they gave up on me. In your opinion, when was the point of no return for, him in Carolina? But was there anything that could have been done that would have stopped this from happening?
I mean, this sounds stupid, but like the injuries, I think would. But you can't. I mean, it's hard. There were so many, and the foot injury. I mean, if you think about it, I've done this thought exercise. It's very dangerous to do because you can't go back and change things. But like, if Cam doesn't injure his foot in that preseason game against New England, like that doesn't happen. He's healthy this whole season. Is Ron Rivera still head coach? Like, is Cam? How did the season go? Did they make the playoffs? Like, was, the defense didn't look great, but maybe they were able to get I don't know. Probably still not the playoffs, but how good were they? Like, were they able to put a season together that was good enough that David Tepper was like, I'll keep him the head coach. I'll keep Cam. We'll give him one more year. So I think I think the foot injury is the biggest thing that it just went downhill from there. I mean, Cam wanted to stay. Like, that's, like, he did not want to go. He wanted to stay in Carolina. He, did everything he could to say he wanted to be there. But I think it was just the team's perspective that it just felt like the time to move on. So I think, like, if the foot wasn't injured, that to me is, like, things would be different.
Do you think, like, he really couldn't show them that he was going to be healthy enough or was healthy enough?
He's definitely getting healthy. Like, he's on schedule. He's fine. I just think he was too much had happened, I think. Okay. I think there's a time when, like, I think this happens around the NFL, though, when there's quarterbacks and there's, like, a point where it's like, do we see it going forward with you? Did Cam want a new contract? That was definitely a potential. He only had 1 year left on his deal. And I think it was just, for the team, it just felt like it was time. And maybe he was getting healthy, but still, he wasn't going to be game ready until very close to the season. Mm. So I think it's just too many question marks with everything else and the new head coach and all that combined. Okay,
so this thought exercise is kind of something that I'm going through myself, right? I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I'm looking at a young, talented, and I say young, he's young. So I look at a young, talented, and obviously motivated Cam Newton right now.
Yeah.
And I'm asking myself, and I ask you too, why is he still on the market? When guys like Phillip Rivers, he's being signed, right?
Yeah.
I think Blaine Gabbert just got signed today. Why is Cam Newton still on the market?
Okay, you called Cam Newton young, and I will argue with that. I don't think he's young. I mean, relatively to the NFL, he's not
relatively young.
He's gonna be 31. I don't know. Compared to Phillip Rivers, that's fair.
And compared to Drew Brees and Tom Brady, who both signed new contracts.
Yeah, but they've shown to be better quarterbacks as of late, I will say. And I think you look at someone like Phillip Rivers getting signed immediately as opposed to Cam. I mean, first, Phillip Rivers was a free agent far before Cam Newton was. So that Cam didn't get released to almost, Phillip Rivers was signed, Tom Brady was signed, all those things were done. And Phillip Rivers hasn't missed a game, and he's been very, very healthy.
Yeah.
I think that's a factor. I think having your starting quarterback be dependable is really a big deal. And there's also like a bad supply and demand right now in the NFL that's like never really happened before, where Jameis has been out there for like 2 months. Like it feels like forever now, but it hasn't been that long. So him and Jameis just being out there and like not having a team, it's rare that there's more starting quarterbacks available than teams that need one. Like the Chargers make sense, the Patriots make sense, but then who are these other teams that still need a starting quarterback? There aren't that many.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, just like as a selfish observer, right? Where do you want to see him go?
I think the Chargers make the most sense. Like, I think that's the logical... Like, I could see the Patriots, but I think the Chargers, they need, like, a flashy kind of guy with their new stadium. Cam is flashy. We can all agree on that. And I think, he doesn't have as much competition. Like, Tyrod Taylor's there, and maybe they'll do a rookie, but there's not, like... I just think that makes sense. That offense is set up, like, he'd have good weapons. So I just think altogether that would be the best fit.
Okay, so let's ask this. Okay, so there's a new regime in Carolina now, right? There's Joe Brady, Teddy Bridgewater, Robbie Anderson, right? A lot of new additions this offseason. How excited are fans for this upcoming season?
I don't know. While there are, my thing with they've added good weapons. Like I think you can make a case that offense is set up to like score a lot of points. There's issues on the offensive line that Teddy Bridgewater might be sacked a few too many times. They have a big issue at offensive line, especially at guard. So their offense looks good, but the defense, there's still so many holes that, and, they'll address some in the draft and maybe pick up a few more free agents, but there's so much reason to be concerned on the defense from my perspective. They haven't really replaced James Bradbury at all at cornerback. Like, there's no one there, really. So I think... the feeling I've got is there's reason to be like somewhat excited, but there's still so much they need to fill and build, especially on defense, that it seems very like cautiously like, oh, this could be somewhat interesting to watch. So I think it's like there, but it's still like this is still a team that's going to take time.
So Joe Brady he's just coming off of a national championship in college. He's a hot name. You guys pick him up immediately, right? Stab a little bit the Saints a little bit by grabbing their back up, right? Even though they could have had him if they wanted to, but they didn't make the signing. So okay, cool. So you got Teddy Bridgewater, and on top of that, right? Joe Brady used to play. Joe Brady used to coach as a part of the Saints coaching staff, and so now you just kind of have that regime in Carolina. I think you guys have some weapons. I love the weapons that you have, right? So what's the outlook? Like, okay, I know how fans, may or may not feel, and I know there's some issues, but for you, just selfishly, like, how do you think the outlook will come? Maybe not this year, but let's say in the next 2 years. Where do you see this team going in about 2 years from now?
I think it depends. I think if they built the offensive line up and got a different tight end, I think the offense has real potential. I think they could be really good. It all just depends. There's so many question marks with Teddy Bridgewater to me. Like, not in terms of, I think he can do a good job. Like, I don't think that's, I think he'll be good. But I think it's how good he can be that is really going to be how long it takes this team to rebuild. Because for me, like, he's on a 3-year deal. They can get out after 2 years with, like, not a lot of loss. So I think, like, let's say Teddy Bridgewater looks really good next year. Then you want to build on that. And you're like, okay, maybe we need to, do we need to extend him? How does that work? Like, or are we drafting someone new? Did he stink? Like, I think so much of the team's projection is how is Teddy Bridgewater are we building off of him, or are we bringing in someone else, and then they need to start over from that and build the offense around that quarterback? So I think Teddy Bridgewater, man, it's going to be so interesting to watch. Like, I think it's fascinating because he hasn't had a starting opportunity in like 4 years. He hasn't been like the starter, so it's going to be really interesting to watch.
It's been a long time since we've seen a Teddy Bridgewater-led team where he's the outright leader and there's no question about it, right? Yeah. So, there's a signing of P.J. Walker, right? Mm-hmm. And which indicates something to me, but I don't know. So then, then you sign P.J. Walker, right? Yeah. You already have Greer there, right? Will Greer still there?
Yeah.
Right? And he got in last year, came in for 2 or 3 plays, went back. So my question is, do you believe, and there was some rumors before, do you believe that the Panthers may target a quarterback in the draft at some point?
Not in the first round. Okay. To me, that would be like, if they do that, I don't know. It just wouldn't make sense. I just think the reason they picked up a guy like P.J. Walker is he's someone who's comfortable with Matt Rule. He's someone who Robbie Anderson played with in college. He's just someone who, like, and he looked great. Like, in the XFL, he looked good. So I think that's a good backup signing. They carried 3 quarterbacks at the start of last season, so that makes sense to me. I wouldn't be surprised if late in the draft they got someone, or maybe like an undrafted free agent, someone like that, brought someone in. That wouldn't be surprising to me at all. But I just think at this point, those are 2 good backups. Well, we can debate Will Greer, but those are 2 like, solid backups that, like, Teddy Bridgewater's the guy. So to me, it doesn't make sense to draft a quarterback early. You know Teddy Bridgewater's starting. There's just too many other holes to address that early at all.
All right, so final question. Let's get down to some brass tacks. You ready?
Yes.
All right, here we go. Tom Brady's in Tampa. Todd Gurley's in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. New Orleans has 2 receivers now for the first time in quite some time.
Hell yeah.
The NFC South is kind of rapidly evolving. Like, right before our eyes, it's now like one of the strongest conferences. Or, one of the strongest divisions. Right? Yeah. And so, how will this new look Panthers team fare in the NFC South? Where do they land when it's all said and done?
Oh, it's not, I mean, not to sound negative here, but it's not particularly close to me. I mean, I think the Falcons, I just think they'll be last. I just don't think there's a situation where you see the Panthers, like, those quarterbacks they're going against, like Matt Ryan, whatever, the Falcons weren't great last year, but that's a team that's coming back together, that just brought in good weapons to complement an already, mildly good team.
Yes.
They're not starting over. They have the same head coach, same GM. And the Panthers, I think their offense could be exciting. They can't stop those guys. They don't have anyone to put against Julio Jones that I trust. They don't have, like, who's stopping Todd Gurley if he manages to get healthy again. They don't have a great defensive line right now. And, I mean, that's before we're talking about Tom Brady and Drew Brees. So I think it could be a very tough season for the Panthers. That wouldn't be surprising to me at all. And the NFC South is so good.
Yeah, they're very good. Like, when I'm looking around, and it's no secret here. People know that I cheer for the Saints and I like the Saints. But at the same time, like, when I kind of look around, right, at the NFC South, you look at the Saints. I do like the fact that they now have 2 receivers. That's really cool.
Yeah, you should.
But at the end of the day, right, it's still problematic because there's so much talent in the NFC South now, right? Teddy Bridgewater actually came through surprisingly for New Orleans last year. And there's some faith. There's actually some people who believe, look, I had the conversation with somebody, and this is wild, but I had a conversation with somebody who said Teddy Bridgewater is now the best quarterback in NFC South. And I yeah, right? Okay, cool. So
I believe that to be false.
Yeah, I believe that to be false too. But at the same,
he's got to prove a little more. He's got to prove a little more before he's even in that conversation to me.
Okay, so what do you expect to see from him this season?
I mean, in an ideal world, do you expect to see what he showed, like you said, during that 5-game stretch when he started over when Drew Brees was injured? I think maybe he could show that, but the Panthers don't have they need to. I'm not like the offensive line is not good right now. Like they have a good. I mean, they have a great left tackle, but besides that, they don't have anyone protecting him, and I think that could be a real issue. You can have everyone you want to throw to, but if you don't have time to get the ball out, there's only so many times you can give it to Christian McCaffrey on those short passes. So I think he could be good, but they need to support him more than they currently are.
Awesome. Look, thank you so much for joining us. You have been phenomenal. I really appreciate it. I'm here hoping the best for Cam, and we'll see kind of where he lands. Right.
I hope the best for Cam too, for the record. I hope he finds whatever fits best for him.
Yeah, I think he will, and if he keeps dropping those videos, I don't think he's going to be free for too long, right?
Don't worry, he will. He will.
Thank you once again for joining us. Hey, is there anywhere where you wanna talk to people about your articles or where they can find your articles? Please just let the people know where they can find your information and get in contact.
Yeah, so you can go to charlotteobserver.com for all our Panthers coverage. We'll be doing lots of fun stuff. And then my Twitter is @Getzenberg, so you can look for me there too. I won't waste your time spelling it out, but
thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Hey, look, this is MTMV Sports. Rick Sincere. Have a blessed day.